do some Q&A. Hopefully we'll get some people in here that are going to be asking, as always, some phenomenal questions. And I'm going to give you a little insight on how you can improve your technique, whether it's your serve, your forehand, your backhand, your overhead, your net play, some footwork ideas with split stepping and the proper way to use, like when to use an open stance and closed stance. We're going to talk about strategies. And that's actually what I want to start with right now, both singles and doubles. So don't forget to hit that like button. Thank you so much. Let's talk about one of my favorite ideas. I'll be on here hopefully for about a half an hour answering your questions. Thanks for hitting that like button. I see one person in here already. Let's talk about when you're playing singles and someone approaches the net. I think this is one of the single most important moments in a singles match. Hey, what's up, Ender? What's going on, Spacer? This is one of those moments where if you can play really smart tennis and really smart strategy, your opponent hits an approach shot or even a forcing shot, they get you in some trouble, they're coming forward. Realize, hello from Italy, hello. When your opponent is coming to the net, they don't magically appear at the net. That's not how it works. They don't snap their fingers and go from the baseline to the net. They have to pass through this no man's land area, this service line area. In addition, when your opponent comes to the net, they are the offensive player, which means you are not, right? So you cannot have two offensive players at the same time. If they're offensive, you're defensive. At best, you're neutral, but basically you are defensive. So the shot that you hit needs to match the situation that you're in. So when your opponent comes forward, they hit an approach shot. Let's say they hit it to your backhand. Let's say you're right-handed, and they're coming forward. Where do you think you should hit that ball? I'm going to put that as a question. We got 24 people in here. We only have 6 likes. I love to get the likes as close as everyone who's in here as possible. Let's see if we can get to 15 likes in about the next 20 seconds. That'd be great. But in the comments section, please comment right now. Where should this player hit the ball when the opponent is approaching and they're coming forward? Where should they hit the ball? Hello from Costa Rica. Amazing. Welcome. Where? Look at that. We're already up to 10 likes. Let's see if we can get it to 15 in the next 8 seconds. We got down the line. That's a great choice. We got a down the line passing shot. All right. Where else? What's up, Toby? All right, we got Tennis the Menace. That's a great name, by the way. We got Tennis the Menace. We also had another one, Toby, hitting feet at their feet. That's a great choice. What else? Anybody else? Cross court. We got cross court passing shot. We got the cross court. We're actually missing one more. We're missing one of the 4 choices. But obviously that would be, and I'm sure someone's frantically typing it right now, and that is the lob. So a couple of you had it correctly and wrote it correctly and guessed correctly. It is at the feet. See, the most important way to win a point is to force an error. Yeah, the lob. See, a down the line passing shot, a cross court passing shot, and a lob are all in the category of avoiding the opponent, right? Your opponent's coming to the net and you're thinking, how can I avoid them? It's not going to be in your best interest to avoid them. Remember, they're offensive, you're defensive. If you are avoiding your opponent and trying to win the point, you are hitting an offensive shot while in a defensive position. So just hit it right to them. Here's one thing I know for teaching for 26 years. Your opponents are not going to split step. And when I say that, it's a little tongue in cheek. I would say there's a there's a 75 to 80% chance they're not going to hit a really clean split step. So when you hit the ball right to them, they're going to run into it, whether it's at chest level, whether it's at knee level, whether it's a half volley. They're not going to play that ball in the best way possible with their footwork. The most valuable way to win a point in singles, in doubles, in tennis in general, is a forced error. There are 3 ways to win a point. Forcing an error, an unforced error where you're just waiting for your opponent to miss because it's unforced. You're just waiting for them to screw up. And then there's a winner where you make the ball bounce twice. Do you know that the most valuable way to win a point is with the forced error? Because it's low risk and it's repeatable. A winner is high risk and an unforced error is not repeatable because you can't make it happen. You're just waiting and hoping that your opponent's rolled out of the wrong side of the bed or just having a bad day. But the forced error, it is so valuable. So when your opponent is coming forward, I want you to use what I call the 2-shot passing shot strategy. The 2-shot passing shot strategy. The first shot is you're going to hit to their feet. And then guess what you just did when you hit it to their feet? You instantly turn them defensive. And if they're defensive, what are you? You're offensive. They're going to hit it short. You can step in, then go for the passing shot on the second shot. When your opponent comes to the net, hit right to the middle, topspin and gravity. What's up, B-man? What's up, BC? What's up, B-man? When you hit the ball low, they're going to have to pop it up. They hit a weaker ball. Half the time, they're going to screw that up. The other half, they're going to pop it up short. You get to step in and go for the passing shot. All right, let's look at some of the questions. We got 33 people in the house, and we got 14 likes. 14 likes. Come on, we got to get more likes up here. There are 3 more like a counterpunch strategy. Those are 3. Those 3 are more like, oh, sorry, I got to read up here a little bit. How do I keep my Yeah, you're right. Cross court down the line and the lob is kind of like that counterpunch. You wait for them to attack and then you counterpunch. But I'm telling you, if you're avoiding your opponent when they come to the net, they are going to win more points. If you involve your opponent, don't avoid them, involve them, you're going to win more. How do I play great in the first set, then poorly on the other 2 sets? Yeah, I think that has, what's up, Ultimate YT? I think that has a lot to do with just your mentality and your focus. I will say this, by you saying that, you do perpetuate it, right? Because you're going to live up to your expectations. I would do some positive affirmations on that one. I think a lot of times as well, players who are really focused and honed in on the first set, when the set is over, they relax. They go, okay, good, I won the first set. And they really have a letdown. So you really have to say, look, my goal isn't to win the first set. My goal is to win the match. We've all seen, probably, you've seen that video of Kobe Bryant. And he's up 2-0 in the finals of the NBA championship. And they say, hey, you're feeling good. You're up 2-0. Why aren't you smiling? He's like, job's not done. Is the job done? Did we win it? There's nothing to be happy about. Job's not done. We've all seen that. You have to have that mentality. If your goal is just to win the first set, then you're going to win the first set and lose the next 2. But if your goal is you don't stop until the match is over, until you win that last point, this is a mindset thing. And you have to change your mindset that you don't care about winning the first set. The first set means nothing to you. Whether you lose the first set or win the first set, it has no bearing, because you just learned that winning the first set apparently has no bearing on winning the match, because if you're losing the next 2 and you lose, and you see a lot of times players will win the first set and then they lose the match because they relax. So very much, very, very much, you have to have the mindset that you do not care about sets. You don't care about games, points, sets. The only thing you care about is the match. And you have to stay perfectly focused until the very last point. The most important point to win is the last point. It's 100% going to be the focus. It can also be that you don't have a game plan, right? So a lot of times players will have a great first set. They're really focused. And then they relax. They're like, I got this. I won 6-3. I don't have to focus as hard because, hey, I'm probably going to win. A lot of times those players don't have a game plan. They don't know that they should hit higher over the net with their ground strokes to be able to make the ball land deeper. They don't know that most of their ground strokes need to be hit cross court. They don't know that when they're rallying and the opponent hits the ball short and makes the ball land in front of the service line, that they got to step inside the baseline, hit, and then come forward and then knock off the volley into the open court. You have to understand tennis so well that the focus isn't just on your mentality, but that the way you're playing is giving you the best chance to win as well. Let's see. Sounds like in a game of tennis. Have you read it? Tim Galway, of course. Why do I play great in the first? Oh, we already got that one. He just relaxed. Whenever I hit a forehand, the racket wobbles. Then they say you have to have a relaxed arm by holding the racket too loose. No, it might be that you're hitting too high on the racket. So one of the things that can make the racket wobble, especially, is if you hit too high on the racket. If you hit lower on the racket, you can usually plow through. Try hitting here rather than here. This is where the racket wobbles. If you hit on the top half, the racket wobbles. But if you hit on the bottom half, it'll usually plow through. Try hitting on purpose when you rally slightly. I mean, obviously don't hit here, but try hit slightly below the center of the racket, and you'll see that the racket wobbles less. See, that's why you're here. That's why you're here. That's got to be worth a like. We got 43 people here, and we only have 25 likes. That's got to be a like right there. That was a good one. All right, let's see here. During practice and warm-up, my forehand is great. During sets or matches, I am tentative and slice or push my forehand. Any tips on how to fix that? Yeah, I want you to purposely miss your... I want you to purposely lose your next match. I mean that. Think about that. We got Top Gun Film Co. asking, why am I hitting tentative forehands in a match? That's because you're trying to win the match. I want you to go out and purposely lose the match. I want you to call one of your buddies up, and I want you to play a match, and I want you to... Now, don't tell your buddy. Don't tell your friend this. But text him up and say, hey, can you play this Saturday at 1? Great, no problem, good. I want you to go out, and I want you to purposely lose and not hit one slice forehand. If your intention is to lose the match, then you have now set the stage to hit the forehand exactly the way you want. And the reason is because the reason you're not hitting the forehand that way is because you're thinking you're going to lose if you do that. Well, why don't you just go out and decide that you are going to lose? If you decide that you're going to lose, then you got nothing to lose. Go out and say, my goal is to lose this match against my friend. It doesn't mean anything, right? The match doesn't mean anything. This isn't a tournament. You're just calling up a buddy. Call somebody up who you're usually, pretty close with, or you can kind of beat 6-4, 6-3. Go out and your goal is to lose the match. And you're going to do it by hitting the exact types of forehands that you wish you could. If you have the expectation of losing, you got nothing to lose. And I mean that. If you start hitting slice, it's because you're trying to win. I want you hitting the forehand not tentatively, the exact way that you wish you would, with the expectation of losing. Watch how you have no trouble hitting that exact forehand, and then guess what happens? You'll be shocked at the result, and you'll probably win even better than you normally do. But you got to keep trying to lose, right? If you win the first set, you can't be like, oh, now I got to win, and I'm going to hit my... No. Try to lose each set. Hello, I want to ask you how to hit low balls with a Western grip. Look, that is one of the problems with the Western grip. It's why I do not teach the Western grip, nor do I allow my students to use a Western grip, because the low ball is the problem with the Western grip. The low ball, the racket face is so closed that it's not easy. A Western grip places the palm forward in the racket like this. So, I mean, you've got to really pull that elbow in. And you've got to hit like this. It's one of the problems with it. The contact point is way out in front like this. And when the contact point is way out in front, you can't get your elbow in. And so you end up framing the ball a ton, and you got to end up hitting, you're going to have to hit cross court a lot. You can't really hit down the line. The ball's going to go cross court. So what I would tell you is just slice it. It's one of the problems with the Western grip. And it's why I don't, if you were my student in person, the moment I stepped on the court with you, I would do everything I can to get you into a semi-Western. The semi-Western is just so versatile. Took 7 weeks off of the knee injury. I did lots of shadow swings to make forehand technique more efficient. When I return to begin to play sets, it breaks down. Should I return to my prior forehand? I would have to see what you're doing. I would have to see what you're doing. Hello from India. John, I would have to see what your forehand looks like to be able to know that. I mean, because there's a reason why it's breaking down. So I would have to see. That's why I offer Zoom lessons. I do stroke analysis. You know, I do those every day. I do Zoom lessons and stroke analysis with students all around the world. So go to my website, 2MinuteTennis.net, and let's do a stroke analysis on you. And we'll sort it out, and I can see what your forehand is. You could even send me two. Yeah, John, you could send me two like videos or just one video that's, I don't know, like 30 seconds long, and hit your old forehand and then your new revamped efficient forehand that you feel like it breaks down. And then we'll kind of see what's going on. Usually what I've noticed is that when people think they're using two different types of forehands, they're really not. They're really not using that much of a difference. I was just watching a recorded live lesson. Awesome. Yeah, thanks so much. Thanks so much. I recognize your name, by the way, as one of the premium members. Don't have any questions at this time, but I do watch your videos and love them a lot. Keep them coming. Thank you so much. That was awesome, Desh. Thank you. I'm having problems with my footwork mostly when I am deep and rallying with the opponent. Hitting balls long because of the position of my racket to my body. How important is stamina? Any advice? Whoa, you took a turn there. I'm not sure. I'm having problems with my footwork mostly when I am deep in rallying with the opponent. Got you. You're talking about you get tired. Hitting balls because of the position of my racket, my body. How important is stamina? Yeah, well, look, if you're just staying behind the baseline, you better be in really great shape, but you also need to be ready to lose. And here's the reason I say that. Roger Federer's winning percentage from behind the baseline is 47% in his career. Roger Federer, in his career, over 20 years, 20 plus years, when he was behind the baseline for the entire point, he only won 47% of those points, which means if Federer never went inside the court, never went to the net, he would have 0 Grand Slams. We cannot dominate from back here. This is not where we dominate. We dominate when we're an all-court player. So you've got to go forward. So I would say, look, the problem isn't necessarily your stamina. The problem is you're not using the 3 times to get to the net. There are 3 times to get to the net. Serve and volley when your opponent is in trouble and on a short ball. And those 3 opportunities happen a lot more, and the opportunity presents itself a lot more than we take advantage of it. So yeah, if you're staying behind the baseline and you're getting tired and you're thinking it's your stamina, it might be that you're not serving and volleying enough. Like if you guys are getting tired, just serve and volley and the point's over. Win or lose, you're committing a certain amount of energy and the point is over. This is why they slow the grass down at Wimbledon and they'll change balls or this or that because they tried to get rid of the Greg Grozensky, Michael Stich, Goran Ivanisevic, obviously Pete Sampras type of tennis because the points were too short. Well, because they were serving and volleying, they were going forward, Tim Henman. So if you start going forward off of your serve, all of a sudden the point is going to be much shorter. And then guess what? Your opponent's going to try to avoid you, which we learned at the beginning isn't a smart play. They should be actually just trying to hit to your feet, but that's not typically what happens. Any type of warm-up recommended before doing serves? Usually when I serve, my arm hurts. Any tips? Yeah, I would do a ton of just slow shadow swinging, nice and loose, relaxed shadow swinging, just very slow, and you don't serve hard. Like I gave a lesson to a guy in person this past Monday, and the very first serve he hit, he served like it was an actual serve. I'm like, yo, you got to warm up that arm. So I would do shadow swings for a minute and just like figure 8 where you don't stop the racket with no ball, just to loosen the arm up. And then when you serve, when you start hitting your serves, it should not look like you're actually serving. It should just look like you're hitting the ball 40 miles an hour. Let the ball bounce 3 times before it gets to the baseline. Or sorry, 3 times before it gets to the fence. People, when you watch the pros, when they go out and hit, have you ever noticed the pros? There, videos on YouTube. You see pros rallying. and they hit the courts, and they've got their hitting partner on the other side, and they feed the ball into play, and they're just hitting so slowly. And they don't ramp it up until about 15 to 20 minutes later. I watch kids and adults go out onto the court, and it's just boom, boom, and they're just crushing the ball. It's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? So we don't want to do that. We don't want to hit the ball hard. So most likely you're hitting the ball way too hard right out of the gate. You got a shadow swing without a ball for a minute, and then hit about 20 serves at half speed. And then we'll go from there. What's the right grip for volleys, continental or semi-eastern? Well, I don't teach the one grip system. I think the one grip system on the volley leads to terrible volleys. And everyone always talks about the best players. Well, the pros use one grip for their volleys. My coach said he could never have played number 2 for the University of Penn or, for USC if he changed grips. Okay, great. Well, that's not helping, Bob and Sue and Larry and Jose. Like, that's not helping them, who are teachers and electricians and plumbers and doctors and construction workers. Like, that's not helping them. So I teach a 2-grip system. So I don't teach a continental on either. The continental is a crap grip for volleys. It's awful. The continental, like the pros don't even use a continental on their grip for their grip. They're slightly over from a continental, in between a continental and an eastern. You call it a semi-eastern. And what I teach is actually a little bit even over from that. What I teach is the knuckle is on the number 3 and the heel pad is on 2.5. That's the forehand volley I teach. And the backhand volley, I teach the knuckle and the heel pad on 1.5, right? So we'll call it a semi-eastern backhand, right? A semi-continental is what I meant to say. So when you change the grip, you actually square up the racket against the back of the ball. A continental grip makes for a terrible volley. Yeah, the USPTA calls you a heretic if you don't teach it, but it makes for... And it's so funny because when people use a one grip system, have you ever noticed that players, whenever they use a one grip system, they don't use a true continental. They're over to the side. But then they go forward on their forehand volley and chop the hell out of their backhand volley. Why is that? Because the grip works on the forehand and it doesn't work on the backhand. If they would change their grip a little bit, they could go more out on the backhand. And yes, there's plenty of time to change your grip. Anybody who tells you that there's not enough time to change your grip has never tried it. What is the best way to improve serve consistency? Yeah, so here's a really simple drill that you can do. You just stand right here and hit an entire basket of serves right there. Stand here. You can even put the racket above your head. Toss and hit, and just hit an entire basket of serves right into the middle of the box. Once you do that, move back 2 feet. Do an entire basket of serves right there. Then move back 2 feet. Hit an entire basket of serves right there. And again, it's not hitting hard. We're just tossing and hitting lightly. Tossing and hitting lightly. And then you just slowly go back. When you're missing your serve, long, short, left, right, it's because you're not sure of where the strings have to face and you can't get the racket to be positioned correctly and repeatedly and reliably. So just start closer up, and it's so much easier. You can even just throw the ball. You can just take a ball and throw it into the box to feel what it's like to aim to a target and hit the target. Then it doesn't have to be a whole basket. It could be 20 serves, 15 serves, or throws. Do 15 throws, then 15 hits. Rack it up above your head, toss and hit. Nice and lightly. You're just tapping the ball. And then you incrementally move back. So you do that in golf. Like you shouldn't put a golf ball on the ground when you're going to the putting green and start hitting 60-foot putts. Like, that doesn't help. Get close and build confidence, and then move back a little bit. Hit, build confidence, move back a little bit, and start close, and then, work your way back. What is the advantage of a high elbow on the serve? Well, when you're talking about a high elbow, and I have a higher elbow, if you look at J.J. Wolf has a higher elbow. There is a range in the elbow, right? So you don't want it down, but you don't want it super high. So I have a pretty high elbow, but what you want rather than just a high elbow is you want an elbow that's back. And the reason you want the elbow back is because the number one power source on a serve is your elbow driving forward and up. That's the number one power source. This move right there. That's what creates a circular swing. Look at my racket draw a circular movement when my elbow is going like this. The reason this is the number one power source is it produces a circular movement. And if you have, I don't know where my birthday hat is, but just imagine, here we go. Just imagine I've got a birthday hat on, right? When you've got a birthday hat on, the whole reason I teach the birthday hat idea, and you want to wear the birthday hat like it's a unicorn horn. Don't put it behind your head, but put it like a unicorn horn. When you move the racket in over the head and circular, you hit the birthday hat, right? So the goal is to draw this movement. So don't worry so much about the elbow position. You don't want the elbow super low, but you don't want it super high. There's just a range here that's comfortable from this is as low as you want, this is as high as you want. But the main goal is that you don't want your elbow in line with your shoulder. You want your elbow back. And the reason is because you want the farthest distance possible for your elbow to have to travel. And that's the definition of speed. The definition of speed is distance over time. So what you're trying to do is give yourself a lower toss, but a farther distance that your elbow has to travel. And if you have a very short distance to drive a very long distance to drive in a very short amount of time, you got to go fast. We've all been late to work or late to school. So when you toss low like JJ Wolf, and then your elbow is back like this, whether it's here or here, I'm not a fan of like this. I'm telling you, if you're a coach, please stop teaching the trophy position. The trophy position is killing serves around the world. You watch the Ooh La La coach, right? And the Ooh La La coach is putting all the students in this position. This is not a power position. This is a power position. When you watch JJ bring his arm up, he's in this position. He's 6 feet tall and can serve 136 miles an hour. It's when you go like this and you get into this position, hand above the elbow and the tip of the racket pointing up, and you see players get like this. That means there's a shorter distance for your elbow to travel. Where if I go like this, and as Vic Braden says, elbow someone behind you, when you're elbowing someone behind you, now you have a farther distance for your elbow to travel. That's that idea of palm down. You want to be in this position on your serve, not this position. Now, you will get in this position. You will get into this position. This isn't the position. I'm sorry. Let me say it another way. You will pass through this position. You just shouldn't get into that position. Because you see players serve and they're like this, and everything is hand above the elbow. Like, please, if your coach is getting you in this position and having you throw, this is not the way you throw a baseball or a quarterback throws. They throw from this position. This is the position you get into. It's not this. If I'm going to throw a football, I'm not like this. I'm like this. The elbow's back, then the elbow can go forward and the arm lays back and then they go. So please, when you toss and you bring your racket up, elbow someone behind you, then that passes the racket in over the head and the elbow drives forward and up. Enlightenment Maytag. What's up, Yvonne? What's going on? Also, JJ Wilson's crazy. Saw it in person versus Chapo City Open. He was bombing it. Dude, he uses the Vic Braden serve. He learned to serve from Andy Fitzel. Do I use a 2-grip system for the slice as well? Oh, absolutely. The slice, I use the grips that I use for my volleys for my slice. Yeah, I do not use the same grip. Like, you will never hear me say that tennis is the continental grip and then your top spin forehand. I just don't. With high elbow, so much better to toss parallel to the baseline. I don't know what you mean by parallel to the baseline. Who is the best player now? It's the same best player who's been the best player for the last 6 years. Djokovic. What age for kids when you start teaching open stance forehands and backhands? It's not necessarily an age, it's a level of play. But open stance comes from the height of contact. So the way you know, first off, eye dominance is not how you decide if you're using an open stance or a closed stance. That is not how you decide open stance and closed stance. Open stance and closed stance is based on the height of contact. So when the ball is higher, you're using an open stance. When a ball is high, it's open. High ball, open. Low ball, closed or neutral. Low ball, closed or neutral. And of course there are exceptions to that. Of course there are exceptions. There's an exception for everything. But why are there exceptions? Because there's a rule, right? Where's the sweet spot of the racket located? Up here. Just above center. Just above center. Such a thing as an open stance one-handed backhand. There is, yeah, Scooter. Yep. Can you show me how to do a good that's an L. Sorry, volley. Can you show me how to do a good volley? Sure, let's talk about a volley. First off, get your elbows out away from you. Elbows out. So everyone's thinking elbows in, right? This is what you see. This is the stuff that you see when you take the USPTA certification test, when you go to the symposiums, you go to their world conferences, and you see, drills where they're like, keep this elbow in, keep this elbow in. The funny thing is if you've ever been told that your backswing is too big, it's because your elbow's in. Right? An elbow in is what lays the racket back. And I'll prove it to you. Watch. I'm going to push my elbow out and watch what happens to my racket. Now my racket's here. The goal is to have the elbow out to square up the racket. I mean, sure, you can get some incredible player who can demonstrate anything. And it's like, I was at a world conference for the PTR down in Orlando, and there was this guy holding his elbow in, and he was hitting the most amazing volleys. It's like, great, how's that working out for you? How's that working out? How's it working out for your students who are 3.0, and they're really struggling with their forehand volley or their backhand volley? And they're taking this big backswing. You see the coaches, right? And they put their students up against their back up against the fence. And they say, don't touch the fence, don't touch the fence. Well, that's all well and good, but that's not fixing the problem. Elbows out. Elbows out. How do I volley with a full Western grip? You don't. Don't volley with a full Western grip. Don't volley with a full Western grip. So you want your elbows out away from you. So it's like you have tennis balls under your armpits, and you're going to flare your elbows until the balls fall out. Elbows out. Then you're going to turn, and you want to turn with your belly button facing the net post, and then you take the racket to that non-hitting hand. No, I do not use a continental grip. I don't use a continental grip. I never have used a continental grip on my volleys. I am on either side of a continental, and yes, there's plenty of time to change your grip. Does keeping sideways on the kick serve mean uncoiling less? Yes. My right foot doesn't kick up like Aliassime at the end of the serve. Yeah, that might be because you are opening up, but it also could be that the toss is straight up. So what you can do, I've got some slippers here. You ready for this? Check this out. And you can see the slippers I wear around the house. Team continental grip for volleys. Listen to me. If Pacho, because I always, or Pachu, whatever your name is, sorry, I always see you commenting on my videos. If you use the continental grip on your volleys and it works for you, I am excited for you. But what I see with recreational players is they are given a continental grip, and some of them do really well. But then you've got players who really struggle with that grip, especially the backhand. You see men and women poaching, and they're on the ad side, or the serve is on the ad side now, and they have to poach for a backhand. They are scared to death to poach that ball because they don't trust their backhand volley. And when you teach them to change their grip a little bit farther over, all of a sudden their volley is perfect. I mean, what's the whole point of a grip change? Please realize something, that 100 years ago, 100 years ago, thank you so much, Logan. That's so kind of you. Thank you for the donation. I really appreciate it, Logan. You're the best. That's so nice of you. 100 years ago, if I were doing this live stream with Bill Tilden, he would tell me that it was blasphemous that I was teaching two different grips on the ground strokes. It's blasphemous 100 years ago. I would be called a heretic 100 years ago if it was a semi-Western forehand and then an Eastern backhand on the one hand. They'd be like, oh my gosh. And they would say Team Continental for forehand ground stroke and backhand ground stroke. I mean, I don't know. I'll be dead. And then in 100 years, they'll say, I remember this guy. There was this guy, 2-Minute Tennis. And all of a sudden, now it's like mainstream. You know, it's mainstream. Everyone's doing the two. We wouldn't even think about using the same grip on the volley. You know, like that's how it works. How do you hit a backhand? Oh, I need to talk about the foot, and then I'll talk about the backhand smash. So you can take a shoe. Now, this is actually the slippers I wear around the house. But here's a shoe that actually, it's like a slipper that actually has no back. It's kind of like a slip-in. But you can do this with a regular sneaker. Is you can just hit a serve, and the goal is when you serve, you kick your foot back like this, and you kick the shoe back as a way to teach yourself how to kick that foot up, all right? And just realize your foot's gonna kick up, your foot's gonna kick up the direction that you are leaning. So if you are leaning, if your toss is to the left, your foot's gonna kick right. If you're leaning forward, your foot's gonna kick back. But let your heel kind of stick out of your shoe a little bit, and then when you serve, throw your shoe to the back fence by kicking it up. It's an easy way to do that. All right, how do we do a backhand overhead? The first idea is use a continental grip. So it is your service grip. The second idea is you have to turn your back to your opponent. Third is let the ball kind of go by you. You have to kind of commit to allowing the ball to go over your head. Don't let the ball drop low, because this move has to happen at full extension. So you have to be willing to allow this ball to go over your head. The next idea is a backhand overhead is the exact opposite of a forehand overhead. A forehand overhead is supinated. Let me tilt this up. Supinated to pronated. A backhand overhead is pronated to supinated. So if you just take your racket, I'll kneel down because I'm in my basement. If you just make this move, forehand overhead, backhand overhead, forehand overhead, backhand overhead. So you use your continental grip, you turn your back, you really let that ball kind of go by you. You put the butt of the racket pointing up in a pronated position, and then you supinate as you hit, and you crack the ball back behind you. Look at that. We got 43 likes, close to the 60 who are on right now. That's awesome. Thanks for the excellent lessons. Appreciate it. You got it. When you aim over the net, how high over the net you are aiming when you are looking at the ball? Or is it just a mental image, or is it something else? Oh, it's just a mental image. Yeah, you're not looking over the net. I mean, that's just realize something. When you lob, you're not looking up into the air. When you're here and your opponent's at the net and you decide to lob, how did you do that? You did that mentally. What's up, Legacy Tennis? What's going on? Are you the Legacy Tennis I think you are? Are you the Legacy Tennis in Philadelphia? All right, so when the ball is here and you're going to hit a backhand lob, you're not looking up, right? It's no different. It's all mental. It's all mental. You have to have the ability to hit the net on purpose if you wanted to. I mean, not that you'd want to, but you should have that ability, right? You should have the ability to hit, a foot over the net, 6 feet over the net, 9 feet over the net. And the way you do that, by the way, is to use a helium balloon. So what I love to do with my students, especially because I here near Philadelphia, I taught at an indoor facility, so it was great because there's no wind. But just get a helium balloon. All you coaches, get a helium balloon. Get a helium balloon on a long string and tie it to the net. No, okay, no problem. There's a tennis club in Philadelphia called Legacy Tennis Academy. Oh, you're in the UK. Gotcha. All right. It used to be called the Arthur Ashe Youth and Tennis Center, but now it's called Legacy. So tie a helium balloon to the net and have it float above the net. And then just have two students try to hit the balloon. It's the easiest way to teach having an air target because you actually have an air target. You actually have a target over the net. And get a really long string so you can float it really high and have them aim at for lobs. Pull the string down, wrap it. They got that chip clip, you know, the chip clip that you put on a bag of chips so it doesn't go stale. They have that chip clip. It'll just clip right onto the net. And you can have it really low, so you can kind of, you know, practice hitting low over the net. You can vary it, whatever. The best way to aim on a ground stroke is actually have an air target and just have something physical that you're trying to hit. You can make it a game during your practices. Just stop at a local grocery store and get a helium balloon. My left foot lands inside court before I make contact with the ball. Yeah, okay, so this is pretty common. So what you're doing, you're tossing, you're jumping, and then you're swinging. And so I would like to look at the way you're actually doing this and how you're actually hitting. It can often be because your racket waits here so long that you jump, and then by the time the racket comes around, you've already fallen. So it might be that you're pausing and you have a hitch, but I'd have to see your serve. Most likely you have a hitch on your serve. You look at J.J. Wolf, you look at Alexander Dolgopolov, who retired a few years ago, the Ukrainian. He would hit and he'd still be rising as he hit the ball. It was crazy. Dolgopolov almost, his serve, the ball almost hit the ground before he landed. I mean, he would land just a split second before the ball hit the ground in the service box. That's how much up he was going as he hit. So have a continuous motion so that when you're exploding up, that's when you're hitting. You're probably pausing your racket. I have watched and like a lot of your analysis on top pro strokes. I want to ask you if you got any recommendations on which players are best to compare yourself with. So every pro has techniques that we should copy and we shouldn't copy. Let's take Federer. You know what's really interesting about Federer is I've taught a lot of people who have said, hey, I'm trying to use the Federer forehand. What do you think? And, you know, they've got the racket like this, and then they do that. And they have the look of Federer. They even walk like Federer. They'll spin and they'll spin with the hand like this and like, you know, all that stuff. Rarely do I see people actually improve their game from those things. But let's talk about what you can copy from most people. When it comes to the serve, copy the J.J. Wolf elbow and birthday hat and low toss. When it comes to the forehand, I would copy, if I were you, the Diego Schwartzman turn where the racket is closed. I would work on, any pro. You can use any pro. But look at Raducanu's forehand where the racket is closed. I mean, all pros do this, where the racket is closed prior to hitting the ball on most forehands. The Tsitsipas backhand, his racket is straight up and down. Most players are like this in recreational tennis. You don't want this. You don't want this James Blake look. You want the racket very straight up and down. Also, you want to drop the racket down with both hands on a one-handed backhand, just like Dominic Thiem and Shapovalov. Most recreational players I see on their one-hander let go too soon because they think the one-hander is one-handed. The one-hander is two-handed until just before contact. So the one-handed backhand is two hands, two hands, two hands, then let go. So you can see my hand is in between my hips. It's by the groin. You want your non-hitting hand to come forward and then it lets go and then you go back. If you're someone who struggles staying sideways, it's because you're letting go too soon and you're making this move too soon. And then as you hit, it gets yanked forward. Your goal is actually to bring both hands down, both hands forward, then let go, and then you'll actually stay sideways and track the racket toward the ball. When it comes to the two-handed backhand, there's just nobody better than Novak. When he turns, his left elbow's up, racket straight up and down, he drops and he closes, he extends way out, left side of the letter V, high elbows when he's done. Bryan brothers, their forehand volley, the Bryan brothers forehand volley is absolutely incredible. Backhand volleys, most pros have bad backhand volleys because they use the one grip system, so then they have to chop the heck out of the ball. But Raven Clausen, two-time Grand Slam finalist in doubles, top 10 player, he changed his grips and he was able to go out through the volley on the backhand volley. All right, let's see here. I can't speak much about George's serve and backhand. I don't know them well enough to speak intelligently. You used to talk about topspin forehand, what to do for a good flat forehand. Well, a flat forehand comes from not getting below the ball, right? How can you do pronation on a slice serve? Kristen, that is a great question. I'm super excited to answer that. And I will explain it in a way that will be a light bulb moment for you. And you'll go, ha, that was amazing. Thank you, Ryan. And I'll say, you are welcome, Kristen. All right, let's talk about the flat forehand first. So how is spin created? Spin is created when your strings face in one direction and your racket travels in a different direction. So spin is created when you go low to high and you're making this move. You can take the racket from below your hand to above your hand as you're doing that. And you can get a lot of spin by making this move. So dropping the racket below the ball, leading with the top edge of the racket, and spinning the ball with the racket going from below your hand to above your hand and up high. And you see Nadal make that move all the time. He finishes above his head. And you get spin on the ball. So what is flat? Flat means not a lot of spin. It still has spin. It's not like the ball, is traveling to your opponent and they see Wilson coming at them. That's not how it works. Flat just means not a lot of RPM. By the way, we have almost surpassed the number of people here with the number of likes. So if you haven't hit the like button, I love it when the likes are more than the people in the room currently. So go ahead and hit that like button. Thank you so much. Spin is created when you swing in one direction, have the racket travel in another. When you hit a flat forehand, you want very little difference between those two. Very little difference. So instead of dropping below the ball with your racket head and then making this move, the goal is that you come more into the back of the ball this way and you flatten it out. And that's what people say when they say flatten it out. It just means you don't drop the racket below the ball and make this move as you're hitting, but you're actually going flat and going more through it as you're hitting. That's how you flatten it out. It also means that you do not, look at this. Oh, we did it, 59 to 58. Thank you all so much. Good job, everyone. It also means that you're not going to close the racket face a ton. The amount that you close your racket face depends on how low you are below the ball. So if you're going to get way below the ball, you've got to close your racket face a ton so that when you spin it, it doesn't go flying into the air. But if you close your racket face a ton and you tilt your strings down and you go flat into it, you're going to bury the ball into the ground. So the flatter you're going to hit into the back of the ball, the less you're going to close the racket to be able to produce that flatter hit. All right, let's talk about how to get pronation on a side spin serve or a slice serve. Kristen, phenomenal question. And I'm going to make that the last topic. And then I got something to share with you guys. And if you can give me the 30 seconds for that platform, I got to share something with you. All right, so here's how it works. Side spin. Side spin, or a slice serve, is just a ball spinning like it is a basketball on your finger. So how do you pronate yet get the ball to spin this way? Well, first, we have to know how long the ball is on the strings. Kristen, the ball is touching the strings for 4 milliseconds. That is 0.004 seconds, 4 thousandths of a second, which means for the 4 thousandths of a second that the ball is touching the strings, the racket doesn't change its angle. The ball doesn't know that you are pronating. It doesn't know that you're making this movement because as you're making this movement, the 4 milliseconds that the ball was touching, the racket was just in this position. It's not like the racket's in this position, and then as you're pronating, the ball is touching the strings. So then we have to know, so just know that. The next idea is we have to know how much angle is created when we're pronating. What is the change in the racket face? And the answer to that is, give or take, 180 degrees. So before you hit the ball, the racket's like this, right? And you can kind of balance a coin on the top edge. And then after you hit, the racket is now facing the other way, and the racket is on its edge. So this is 0, this is 90, this is 180, okay? So I've got a question for everyone, and feel free to type this in the comment section. And by the way, oh no, the number of people in the room have overtaken the likes. Let's see if we can get the likes back up above the number of people. Thank you so much. Hit that like button. I want everyone to comment with an answer, and I want you to give me just a number. I want you to tell me when contact occurs on a slice backhand. I'm sorry, a slice serve. Understanding that this is 0 degrees, my strings are facing off to the left. Here is 90 degrees of change, my strings are now facing forward. And this is 180, where my strings are facing off to the right, where here the strings are facing to the left, here my strings are facing off to the right. When did contact occur? At what number? What number? 0, 5, 10, 50, 90, 100, 135, 180. When does contact occur? We got 45, 75, 45. 45, 45, boop, 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 boop. We are a pretty good crowd, 65 wise. Yeah, I completely understand what you're saying, One. This is great. 90, great. We got 41. Say, I didn't come here to do math. What's up, Legal Eagle? What's going on? What's going on? Well, get used to it. Get used to it. Logan, 25. How much time the live will be? We're going to be done. Yes, Legal Eagle is here. Legal Eagle is a phenomenal tennis player. All right, so here is the answer. It is less than 90. It has to be less than 90. That's the only way you're going to get the strings to face in one direction and the racket to travel in a different direction. So my answer is always somewhere around 80 to 85. It's not 180, because if it's 180, you just hit your friend in the stands, right? So when you are hitting a slice serve, what you have are your strings facing where you want the ball to go, and that's only about 10 degrees off of 90. So it's a little less than 90, we'll say 80, 85. My point is this: you go from on edge to just before you square up the racket, then you square up the racket, and then you pronate fully with your strings facing off to the right. The reason people think that pronation can't give slice is because they're thinking of past 90, where you're on this side of the ball, because people think you're going to be hitting the wrong spin. No, think of the majority of the pronation happening after you hit the ball. So the way I explain this, Kristen, is spin the ball, then pronate. Spin the ball, then pronate. That's the feeling that you have to have. The majority of that 180 of rotation is happening after you make contact with the ball. So you are pronating as you're hitting. You're just still leading slightly with the right edge, which was the top edge, as you go toward the ball. As you lead toward the ball, you hit, and then the majority of the pronation happens after. But an easy way to think of it, Kristen, is just spin the ball, then pronate. That's the easy way to make it happen. And I know I get the purists in the comment section saying, yeah, but Ryan, that's not what actually happens. And I agree with you. But my job isn't to report the news. My job is to get people to understand it in such a way that it's helpful. And sometimes you have to bend the truth a little bit. Sometimes you have to explain things in a way that isn't exactly 100% right. Because there are a lot of tennis channels that talk about ulnar deviation and all this angle, and they'll show you pictures of the anatomy of the body. And I'm looking at it going, I have no idea what the hell they're talking about. My goal is to be super helpful. I never want to come on here and sound smart. What I want to do is come on here and sound helpful. How are we looking with the likes? Oh, look at that. We got definitely a light bulb moment. You got it. Thanks, Kristen. Thanks. Yeah, just think of spinning, then pronating, and you'll get it right. What most people do is they think that most of the pronation is done and then contact occurs. And they would be right. You'd be hitting the other side spin. But you want to lead with the edge, begin pronation just before you hit, and then when the ball's gone, most of the pronation happens after. But again, the ball doesn't know you're rotating the racket. The ball only knows the direction you are swinging and the speed at which you're swinging and where your strings are facing at contact. Guys, I've just gone 55 minutes. 55 minutes on here. If you could give me 55 seconds. As you know, I have the website 2MinuteTennis.net. My goal is to completely change the way people learn to play tennis. Look, the tennis court is a great place to practice, but I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think it is the best place to learn. The best place to learn, think about all you've learned right now. We could be doing this on a weekly basis and in an interactive way. So I have what is called the 2MinuteTennis.net premium membership. I just had one of my classes that I run for my premium members last night. It was all about the kick serve. The premium membership is $40 a month. Here is what you get. By the way, you'll always notice I always give you the price first. There's a reason for that. That way you can make sense of the value proposition. If I don't give you the price, then you're just wondering what the price is. So now that we got the price out of the way, now I can tell you what you get. For $40 a month, cancel anytime, here's what you get. The moment you sign up, you get a free one-on-one Zoom private lesson with me. You get one, right, as soon as you sign up. You get to schedule at a time that's convenient for you. I'll put you side by side with the pros. I'll put your serve versus JJ Wolf. I put your backhand against Djokovic. I'll put your forehand against any pro you want me to. And I'll show you exactly what you're doing correctly and what you can do to improve. You get a recording of the whole thing afterward. They are phenomenal. The second thing is you get a weekly live Zoom group class with all the other members. Currently have 66 members. We are humming here. I just got 25 new members in the last 10 days. It's incredible what is happening and the community that we are building. It's absolutely amazing. I can't wait. My goal is 1,000 and we are absolutely going to get there. So the weekly classes are Wednesday, 9 p.m. New York City time. They're an hour. If you can't make it, no problem. I always put the recording up on the website for the members to watch. In fact, the 5 tips to hit a great kick serve class, which I ran tonight, the recording I already put up on the website this morning while I was waiting for my oil change. I took my car in for an oil change and I was working there at the car dealership, getting the recording up. And so if you can make it, great. If you can't, I always put the recording up. You also get half price from that point forward, Zoom lessons and stroke analysis. A Zoom private lesson, you know how you got a free one when you signed up? A Zoom private lesson is usually $120. But if you're a member, you get it for $60. A stroke analysis is usually $77. That cuts in half, $38.50 for you mathematicians out there. And my Master Your Serve, Master Your Forehand course, Master Your Double Strategy with more courses are included. Go to 2MinuteTennis.net and check out the premium membership and see if it's something that you think you would benefit from. We got people all around the world, Australia, United Arab Emirates, we got Switzerland, we got Greece, we got Germany, we got obviously the UK, all across the country. We got Canada, we got Mexico, we got Puerto Rico, South Africa. We have members all around the world who meet Hong Kong, who meet on Wednesday nights. It's super interactive. I see them, they see me. They're demonstrating their forehands and I'm helping them. And it's such a cool event every Wednesday night. So go to 2MinuteTennis.net right now. Check out the premium membership, $40 a month, and see if it's something that is right for you. Guys, I got to get going. I have to now get back to work, right? Get back to work and make some YouTube videos. Zoom lessons are 1 hour. Yep, they are absolutely incredible. And you'll have to ask Legal Eagle how well they work for you and raise your level of play. So thank you all so much. I will talk to you all really soon. And yeah, just reach out to me with any questions. You can, stupidly underpriced. Yeah, I know Legal Eagle. I know. Yeah, I've been working. You want to talk about a really good tennis player? Legal Eagle is your man as a really good tennis player. I can't wait to get on the court with him at some point pretty soon. So, all right, guys, talk to you all really soon, and